Welcome to the Stanford Ponzi Scheme ethical news story. The information age has helped bring corporate social responsibility to the forefront, providing immediate access to live information. In years past, citizens, stakeholders, and investors could have been held in the dark due to a lack of access to information resources. Situations such as Ponzi schemes, robbing Peter to pay Paul, could take over like a virus and go on for years before investors ever became the wiser. In recent years, 2 high-profile cases involving Ponzi schemes have surfaced, due in part to the increased consumer access to information. These cases involve the highly recognized name of Bernie Madoff and the self-made billionaire Robert Allen Stanford. In the case of Robert Allen Stanford, dual citizenship allowed Stanford to open banks in Antigua and begin building its financial empire. The tax haven status of Antigua was not only enticing to Stanford, his banks and subsidiaries, but also to its stakeholders who were looking to protect their assets from the government's reach. Stanford spared no expense when choosing his buildings and his furnishings therein, establishing the perception of wealth. The appearance of wealth and the tax haven benefits of Antigua provided an attractive proposition to would-be investors. To top off the SOS, style over substance proposition, Stanford was knighted by the government of Antigua. Stanford used his high-profile status and lavish wealth-demanding lifestyle to build the Stanford Financial Group. Stanford used many of the company's subsidiaries to perpetuate a worldwide Ponzi scheme. The use of many different companies became a shell game of sorts, hiding their fraudulent activities from the SEC, Securities Exchange Commission, its stakeholders, and its investors. The majority of working capital funds were brought in through the sale of certificates of deposits. CDs were offered through Stanford International Bank. Although these CDs were not insured in the United States by the Securities Investor Protection Corporation, Stanford was advertising and offering returns that were substantially higher than the U.S. banks were offering. Stanford focused solely on accredited investors and required a minimum deposit of $50,000. Stanford acquired in excess of 30,000 clients and an estimated $7 billion in CD deposits. Stanford was allegedly using assets of these CDs to fund risky real estate propositions, his other businesses, his lavish lifestyle, and to sponsor cricket tournaments. Stanford adamantly denied any wrongdoing and resented the accusations of a Ponzi scheme. With Stanford's assets frozen, he was unable to mount a sustainable defense to the charges. Stanford's CFO, James Davis, who purportedly ran his own church and led the prayers at the opening of meetings, has admitted to cooking the organization's books to cover up its activities. With the perceived moral leader of the organization a willing participant in the alleged fraudulent activities at Stanford, it can reasonably be concluded that social responsibility was not a key consideration in the strategic planning process. Stanford was ultimately convicted on March 6, 2012 on 13 of the 14 counts, with the lone exception being a not guilty verdict for the wire fraud charge. Stanford was handed down a sentence of 110 years, which he is now serving in federal penitentiary. Ex-CFO James Davis was handed down a 5-year sentence, with consideration given for his cooperation for his involvement in the Ponzi scheme. The recent surfacing of these Ponzi schemes should serve as a reminder to investors. If it appears too good to be true, it probably is.